Welcome to a deep dive into a stack of sources about a brand new piece of technology that's genuinely turning heads.
Definitely.
Today, we're pulling apart everything you could find on Google VO3.
Right. So what is VO3? Well, the sources are telling us it's Google's latest, and it seems like their most powerful AI model yet, specifically for, generating video.
And our mission here in this deep dive is really to get a handle on exactly what VO3 is, what it promises to do, how you actually interact with it, who can currently get their hands on it, what that costs.
Yeah, practical stuff.
And maybe most importantly, the bigger picture, what its arrival means for creators, for industries, even for, the information landscape itself.
Yeah, it's got a lot of implications. The articles we looked at, they're calling this a game changer.
Right, even suggesting it could let anyone with an idea become an AI movie director. That's a bold claim.
It is.
Yeah.
So let's unpack what makes it potentially so significant.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning. What exactly is Google VO3 based on these sources?
Well, it's the newest version from Google DeepMind. They've obviously built on earlier iterations they've been working on.
Right.
At its core, VO3 is an AI model that creates high-quality, pretty realistic videos, mostly from text prompts, descriptions.
Okay.
But you can also feed it images to kind of guide the visuals.
So that sounds a bit like other AI video tools we've seen, maybe like the earlier VO2. Is it just an upgrade?
Well, this seems to be where VO3 takes a pretty big leap, actually. The core differentiator, the thing really highlighted in the sources. The major upgrade from models like VO2 is that VO3 is apparently the first AI video generator from Google that natively generates audio alongside the visuals.
Natively. So not tacked on afterwards.
Exactly. It doesn't just make the picture, it makes the sound too, all synced up from the start.
Audio and video generated together. That feels like a fundamental shift for this kind of AI, doesn't it?
It really is, yeah. It was announced at Google I/O 2025, and technically it uses a method called latent diffusion.
Okay, that sounds familiar for image generation.
Right, it's common for generating complex media. But its real power, it seems, comes from integrating Google's top-tier AI, the Gemini Ultra Foundation model.
Okay.
That integration is supposedly what lets it understand really complex, nuanced instructions.
Okay, let's dig into these capabilities then. The ones earning it this game changer label. What are the specific features that really stand out in the sources?
First off, the raw output quality. It's generating video in 1080p resolution right now.
1080p, that's pretty good for AI video.
It is. And Google's apparently aiming for 4K down the line, so that's a significant jump in just visual fidelity compared to earlier models.
So it looks sharper. What about the creative side, though? Like understanding artistic intent?
Yeah, this seems to be where that Gemini Ultra integration really pays off. It apparently shows a much more nuanced understanding of natural language prompts.
Meaning
You can include subtle details about tone, mood, or even specific cinematic instructions. The sources point out it can actually interpret filmmaking terms.
like what kind of terms?
Things like time-lapse aerial shots, specific camera movements. You can ask for a particular kind of shot, and it, gets it.
Cinematic direction just through text. Wow, that feels like it's opening up a whole new level of control.
Seems like it.
Now, AI video has often struggled with, realistic motion and keeping things consistent from frame to frame. How does VO3 handle that?
Yeah, that's definitely an area where they seem to have put significant effort. It aims for much more realistic movement for subjects and objects within the scene.
How does it do that?
It uses something they call a temporal consistency engine. Think of that as it's the part of the AI specifically designed to keep things smooth between frames.
Reducing that weird flicker or morphing you sometimes see.
Exactly. Less of those artifacts. It's working towards a more accurate simulation of how things actually move and interact in the real world. Physics, basically.
Okay, and that integrated audio feature you mentioned earlier, how deep does that go? What can it actually do with sound?
So it automatically generates synchronized sound effects, ambient noise, background music, and even character dialogue.
Dialogue, too.
Yes, and this is really key.
Yeah.
It apparently has a lip sync engine.
A lip sync engine.
It uses motion prediction algorithms to try and match the generated speech precisely with the character's facial movements.
Wow. Because accurate lip sync has been a massive hurdle for anyone trying to make AI characters talk believably.
Absolutely. So VO3 is tackling that head on.
Integrated audio with convincing lip sync for characters. That feels like a major breakthrough, particularly for character-driven storytelling with AI.
It absolutely does. Yeah. And beyond just generating from scratch, there's also talk about potential for editing existing videos using text commands.
Editing too.
Yeah, including something called masked editing, where you could tell it to modify just a specific part of a frame or scene.
Interesting.
The overall goal seems to be higher realism and much better adherence to complex instructions, which, hopefully means less trial and error for the user.
So how do you interact with this thing? What does the process look like, going from an idea to a finished video clip, especially the prompting part?
Well, your main input is text prompts, just describing what you want. Or, like we said, you can combine text with an image to maybe set the scene or include a specific visual element.
And Gemini Ultra's role here isn't just passive. It doesn't just read the prompt.
No, it seems quite active, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini Ultra isn't just interpreting your prompt. The sources say it can also help refine it.
So
It can apparently suggest scene outlines based on your initial idea, maybe even help sync specific audio cues with the video timeline as it plans the output.
Oh.
They even recommend a kind of structured approach to prompting for getting the best results. A 4-stage strategy.
A strategy for writing prompts. Okay, tell me about that. That sounds useful.
Yeah, it's basically about breaking down your creative vision into components. So stage 1 is setting the scene. You describe the environment, the atmosphere, really vividly.
Okay.
Like a golden sunrise painting a misty African savanna. Something evocative.
Right, establish the world and the mood first. Makes sense.
Exactly. Then stage 2, characters and actions. Introduce your subjects and what they're actually doing. So building on that savanna example, 2 lion cubs playfully wrestling near a watering hole while birds fly overhead.
Got it. Adding the actors and their stage directions, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Then stage 3, auditory and emotional cues. This is where you specify the sounds, the music, the feeling you want to evoke.
Ah, bringing in that native audio layer you were talking about.
Precisely. So for the savanna scene, maybe, gentle tribal flute music plays. You hear the soft rustle of grass in the wind.
Okay. Setting, characters, action, sound. What's stage 4?
Stage 4 is technical enhancements. This is where you add those cinematic instructions we mentioned.
Ah, the camera work.
Exactly, like wide-angle shot, slow motion, Ultra HD resolution with a shallow depth of field. Structuring your prompt this way apparently helps the AI understand and execute your whole vision with more accuracy.
That structured approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would help manage all these different layers of control. Have there been any cool examples shared yet? Stuff people have actually made?
Yes, the sources mentioned some pretty impressive early results. There's a clip of a stand-up comedian where the crowd laughter and the comedian's dialogue and, crucially, the lip sync are reportedly very realistic.
Wow.
Another example they mentioned is a historical scene, like Pythagoras explaining his theorem in an ancient setting.
Huh. Interesting.
And music videos where the visuals and the generated music are tightly synced up.
Okay, that sounds neat. Any more specific prompt examples, like showing the detail it can handle?
Yeah, they mentioned one creating a clip of a child running through a neon-lit Tokyo alley right after it rained.
Oh, cool.
Complete with, realistic puddles reflecting the neon lights' dynamic lighting. Or another one, an older woman telling a folk tale in Spanish.
In Spanish.
Yeah, featuring native-sounding intonation, perfectly synced dialogue, and even ambient sounds like crickets chirping in the background.
Those examples sound incredibly specific and detailed. It's capturing the whole world, visual and auditory.
Yeah, they really show the depth of control the prompting potentially allows.
Yeah.
And there's also this feature called Prompt Rewriter.
Prompt Rewriter?
Yeah, it's available through Vertex AI, and apparently it's enabled by default in the VO3 preview model. It uses a large language model to automatically enhance your initial prompt.
How does it enhance it?
By adding richer visual descriptions, maybe suggesting camera motions, adding sound effect cues, stuff like that. Basically, to help you get better results, even if you're not, a prompting expert right out of the gate.
That sounds like a helpful feature. Okay, this definitely sounds like powerful tech. How can someone actually get access to VO3 right now? And, the big question, what does it cost?
Okay, so right now, there seem to be 2 main ways to get into the VO3 preview. The public beta access is available through Google's Gemini AI Ultra plan.
Gemini AI Ultra plan.
Okay, the sources specifically mentioned this is currently a US-only beta, though.
Ah, okay. US only for now. What's the other route?
The other path is via Vertex AI.
Which is?
That's Google Cloud's platform, right? Typically used by enterprise-level customers or developers. Access there usually involves using the Google Cloud Console or their API.
So that's more for businesses wanting to integrate it.
Exactly. For businesses looking to build VO3 into their workflows, maybe for batch processing or more custom applications, that's the route.
Okay. And the cost, what's the price tag associated with this?
Well, for that public beta access, the one through the Gemini AI Ultra plan, the listed cost is $249.99 per month.
Oof. Okay, that's not cheap.
No, but that plan actually bundles several other Google services along with the Veo 3 access.
Like what?
You get Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is their advanced chatbot, access to something called Google Flow for potential workflow automation.
Okay.
YouTube Premium is included, and a pretty substantial 30 terabytes of cloud storage.
Ah, okay. So it's pitched more as a premium suite of tools and services, not just Veo 3 standing alone.
Yes, exactly. Now, for the enterprise pricing via Vertex AI, that's custom. Depends on usage, scale, that kind of thing, which is typical for cloud services.
Right.
One source did mention potential future pricing tiers, like a starter maybe around $29 a month, and a studio around $199 a month.
Uh-huh.
But for now, the documented public beta access point is that Gemini AI Ultra plan at $249.99 a month.
Got it. So beyond just generating the video clips, where does Veo 3 fit into the broader Google world? And maybe other tools people already use?
Yeah, it seems designed to integrate quite tightly within the Google ecosystem. Like we discussed, it works closely with Gemini Ultra for understanding and refining prompts.
Right.
The sources mention integration with Google Flow, which could potentially be used to, say, stitch together the 8-second clips Veo 3 currently generates into longer sequences.
Ah, okay, because 8 seconds isn't very long on its own.
No. So that makes sense for building longer videos.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's seamless Google Drive sync. So your generated videos save easily, along with metadata like the original prompt when it was generated, stuff like that.
Useful.
And it has built-in features aimed specifically at YouTube publishing.
Like what?
Things like automatic captions based on the generated dialogue, suggestions for video metadata to help with discovery, thumbnail generation using another DeepMind AI model.
Oh, AI-generated thumbnails, too.
Yep. And importantly, support for YouTube's AI disclosure tags, that little label to mark content as synthetic or altered.
Okay, so it's really integrated from creation right through to publishing within the Google sphere. What about outside of Google's walls? Any connections to other common tools?
Yeah, the sources highlight several existing or announced integrations with third-party tools people use. Adobe Premiere Pro, the video editor.
Okay, standard Pro tool.
Right. It can use a plugin for incorporating Veo clips into professional edits. Descript is mentioned.
For audio work.
Exactly. For post-production audio stuff like voiceovers or maybe cleaning up the generated dialogue. And Canva Pro is mentioned too, allowing easy integration of Veo clips into design projects like social media posts or marketing materials.
Makes sense for quick content creation. Are there more integrations planned down the line?
Yeah, they teased a couple of upcoming ones. OBS Studio.
For streaming.
Right, which could potentially allow for generating real-time virtual streams with AI-generated hosts or backgrounds maybe, and the Unity engine.
For games.
Yeah, suggesting potential use in game development, maybe for creating concept art for environments, or pre-visualizing cutscenes quickly.
Okay, so it sounds accessible enough for individual creators, even with the price tag. But what about those power users and businesses you mentioned using Vertex AI? What kind of advanced capabilities does that unlock for them?
Right. For enterprise users and developers accessing Veo 3 via Vertex AI, it's really about much deeper integration into their existing workflows. Well, you get API access. That means companies can build Veo 3 directly into their own software or internal processes,
Okay.
enabling things like automated large-scale batch video creation, not just one clip at a time.
Right, generating hundreds of variations or something.
Exactly. And there are also more advanced customization options available through Vertex AI. The sources mention things like frame-level control using a keyframe editor and something called script tagging.
Frame-level control, that sounds granular.
It does. It means you could potentially get incredibly specific, dictating actions, camera movements, or visual cues precisely at a certain frame or timestamp within the generated video.
Like telling it exactly when the lighting should change or when a character needs to perform a very specific action.
Precisely. It pushes beyond just simple prompting into much more directed, controlled creation.
What else for enterprise?
Another key enterprise feature mentioned is asset injection.
Asset injection.
Yeah, this lets you integrate your own external content directly into the AI-generated output.
What kind of content?
Things like company logos, specific pre-recorded voiceovers, maybe existing B-roll footage. You can inject various file types like PNGs, MP4s for video, WAVs for audio, even SVGs for vector graphics.
So you can blend your existing brand assets with the AI generation. Can businesses also train the model on their own specific visual style or data?
Yes, that's another capability mentioned for enterprise users. Dataset fine-tuning.
Okay.
Companies with very specific visual needs or technical content can potentially train VO3 on their own proprietary video data.
Give me an example.
Okay, like a defense company could fine-tune it on their mission footage to create highly realistic internal training simulations. Or a tech company could train it on their product videos to generate new marketing content that perfectly matches their established visual style.
So really tailoring the AI to fit your specific brand identity or technical requirements.
Correct. And because this is all happening via Google Cloud Platform, there's a big focus on secure deployment.
Right. Security would be key for enterprise.
Yeah, they mentioned features like access via secure tokens, availability across, I think, 20-plus global data centers, promising a 99.99% uptime SLA.
That's high availability.
And low latency for submitting prompts and getting results back quickly. There's even a command line interface, the VOC for real power users to script jobs, queue up renders, manage outputs programmatically.
Okay, that covers the tech and access. Let's talk about how this technology is actually being used or could be used in the real world across different industries. What kind of impact are we potentially looking at here?
Well, the sources paint a picture of potential transformation across quite a few fields. Filmmaking's an obvious one.
How so?
It could significantly lower barriers, enabling, budget-friendly short films, maybe complex sci-fi, or period pieces that usually require expensive sets, or even animation.
By reducing the need for big CGI teams or physical location shoots.
Exactly. Or maybe eliminating them in some cases.
Yeah.
It could also help directors and writers just visualize script concepts really early on in development. Previs, basically.
So kind of democratizing access to high-end visual storytelling tools.
Precisely. Education is another huge area mentioned.
Really? How would that work?
VO3 could help create incredibly engaging visual learning content. Think dynamic historical timelines that actually move, or complex science animations showing processes like cell division. Interactive language learning simulations with realistic characters speaking the language, or researchers visualizing complex data for presentations and papers.
Making abstract or difficult concepts much more concrete, much easier to grasp visually. I can see that.
Absolutely. Healthcare also sees potential applications.
Healthcare. That's interesting.
Yeah, things like producing highly detailed medical training animations, anatomy, surgical procedures, or creating more accessible patient education videos explaining conditions or treatments.
Okay.
And even potentially therapeutic videos for mental health apps, like simulating empathetic conversations or generating personalized visual affirmations.
Wow, that's a fascinating and kind of unexpected application.
It is. Gaming is using similar tech, too. Concept artists can generate immersive environment ideas or character renderings much faster.
Makes sense for ideation.
And then there's marketing and e-commerce. The speed and flexibility here could be massive.
How so?
You could quickly generate product showcases, brand story videos, rapid-fire social media micro-content, or even the visuals for entire campaigns.
Right.
One source gave an example workflow where a company supposedly created a full-funnel marketing campaign as landing page videos, social posts in under 6 hours using this kind of tool.
6 hours for a whole campaign's visuals. That's incredibly fast.
It is, if it works as advertised.
Okay, this technology sounds incredibly powerful, genuinely exciting. It opens up a world of creative possibilities. But with that kind of power, especially generating such realistic video, there are always significant challenges and questions, aren't there?
That's the critical flip side, absolutely. The potential for misuse is substantial, particularly around misinformation and the creation of deepfakes. We're talking about things like political manipulation, realistic fake videos of public figures saying things they never said.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Convincing celebrity impersonations used for scams, or highly deceptive false advertising that looks totally real.
That's a deeply concerning issue, especially in our current information environment.
It absolutely is. The sources actually highlight a specific case study from 2024, a financial fraudster in Singapore.
What happened?
They apparently used AI-generated news videos featuring fake endorsements from high-profile figures to scam investors out of millions. Technologies similar to VO's generative capabilities were reportedly involved.
Wow. So what is Google doing, or at least saying, about managing these risks?
Well, Google states they are implementing safety measures. This includes things like internal filters designed to try and prevent the generation of harmful or explicitly forbidden content.
Okay.
Systems for labeling AI-generated media and encouraging users to disclose when they're using synthetic media. They also mentioned using Synthy watermarking. Yeah, it's a technology that embeds an invisible digital watermark into the generated content, meant to help identify it as AI generated later on. Though one source did note these built-in watermarks might be lower quality or less robust than ones from dedicated third-party watermarking tools.
So a step, but maybe not a foolproof solution for deepfakes. What about intellectual property? This gets sticky. If I use VO3, who actually owns the video I create?
Yeah, this is a complex legal area, and the sources try to provide clarity based on Google's current terms. Essentially, Google owns the underlying AI model itself, the logic behind how it works.
Okay, they own the tool.
Right. You, as the creator, own the specific prompt you wrote, your creative input.
By description.
Exactly. The generated video file itself, the output, that's described as being co-owned under the specific license terms you agree to when you use the service.
Co-owned. So joint ownership of the final MP4 file, basically.
Effectively, yes, under whatever specific licensing terms are in the agreement. And this can become really complicated if your prompt uses, say, trademark names or specific brands or the likenesses of public figures without having the proper permission.
Ah, right. So asking the AI to generate something like, I don't know, Barack Obama gives a speech at Burning Man.
Exactly. That could very easily infringe on image rights, personality rights, or other intellectual property. The AI might generate it, but using it could land you in trouble.
So users have a really significant responsibility here to be careful about what they ask for and how they use the output.
Absolutely. The sources strongly emphasize user responsibility and the importance of transparency.
What kind of transparency?
Best practices they recommend include things like using visible visual watermarks, just text saying generated with AI, or similar, adding credits that specify the tool used, like footage created with Google VO3. And utilizing platform features like YouTube's AI disclosure tags. This kind of transparency helps build trust with your audience, letting them know what they're seeing.
Are there things the tool is just strictly forbidden from creating, according to the terms?
Yes, the terms of service are apparently quite strict on certain uses. They prohibit generating content for political campaigns, for example.
Okay, that's significant.
Making specific medical claims without proper certification is also banned. And creating adult content.
Standard restrictions for these kinds of tools, most?
Pretty much. The sources also suggest, just as a good practice for users, maintaining a usage log.
A log.
Yeah, just keeping a record of your prompts, the timestamps, maybe saving the metadata associated with your generated videos. This could potentially be helpful documentation down the road in case of future copyright claims or disputes about ownership or usage rights.
That sounds like sensible advice in such a new area. Okay, so we've taken a pretty deep dive into Google VO3 here. We've explored the, frankly, incredible power it seems to hold.
Yeah, definitely potential there.
From potentially democratizing filmmaking and making complex subjects visual and engaging in education to completely transforming how content gets created in marketing and e-commerce.
And we've also touched on the very real, very complex ethical and legal landscape it brings with it, particularly around misinformation, deepfakes, and intellectual property.
It's clearly a tool with just astonishing creative and practical potential, but also one that introduces some serious questions about how we verify and how we trust visual media going forward.
Absolutely. It forces us to confront those questions directly.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with. If AI can now create these realistic videos, complete with perfectly synced audio, just from a text description, what completely new forms of storytelling, what kinds of visual communication might emerge that we can't even imagine today?
That's the big question, isn't it? The unforeseen applications.
And as this technology becomes even more powerful, even more accessible, how do we collectively ensure its use to build understanding and creativity, rather than to erode the already fragile trust we have in what we see and hear?
Yeah. How do we navigate that? That's definitely something for you, for all of us, to keep thinking about as this technology continues to evolve so rapidly.